Good morning, everybody. Happy Thursday. Welcome back. Hope you've enjoyed this week. I have had so much fun digging into this. And of course, the trolls are starting to pop up now and then on TikTok, and it's hilarious. I love it. Y'all, come on. I'm here for it. Here for it, 100%. So today, let's talk about the L word of EMS, and that is liability. So obviously, everybody thinks about liability, right? We all want to make sure our asses are covered and that we're not putting ourselves in a position where we can get sued or we can get, screwed over in some capacity, either by our bosses or by our patients or the hospital or whoever. Obviously, everybody thinks about liability. Okay. However, there's EMS agencies have this hyperfixation on liability, and it's twofold. One is medical, and the other is social. And it's amazing to me that agencies are so hyper concerned about what you post on Facebook. You say you have a comment somewhere randomly in the ether of the internet, and oh my God, like you're getting fired or you're getting suspended or whatever. Even people that don't affiliate with their agency publicly, you've got the social media Gestapo. I mean, that's really what it is. There's agencies that have people that's their fucking job. And I'm sorry, you can't deny it because we know it's true. Whether it's actually a formal position or just members of leadership who take it upon themselves to do that. So it's so funny to me that an agency will be so fixated on what their people post rather than encouraging them to become positive billboards for the agency and doing things that encourage them to be that positive billboard. They will instead harp on every single little fucking thing. And then when the agency does something wrong, so we have to sweep it under the rug. Like we can't talk about this. Nobody can see this. Just disappears. That's funny. You don't want the accountability, but you expect everybody else to be held accountable. That's really cute. So you have that happens all the time. And I referenced early in the I think Monday's episode talking about scapegoats. And this is the public service community in general loves scapegoats. They love having somebody to blame, somebody to throw in front of the cameras and say, that's the guy, that's the person that fucking did it. And or even if it's not in front of the cameras, if that's just their narrative that they get to tell people is, oh my God, it's this guy. Like, you really have no idea how bad it was. It was awful. Okay. But is that always true? No, it's not. It's not. So you have agencies that love holding people accountable for stupid shit, but they refuse to accept responsibility for their own actions, especially if it was something that caused harm to the patient because of poor management or human resource practices. And, instead of looking at, hey, how could we have prevented this? They will just hang their people out to dry for a mistake that was not only not their fault, but was 100% preventable. So, there's this social stigma, and I've seen places that actually you can get written up for being on social media on duty. Literally, for posting anything. I'm not even talking about pictures or anything about work. If you just posted like, hey, I'm having a pretty good day today, and that's it, no pictures of anything, no identification that you're at work, none of it, you get written up. Because clearly that fosters a good culture in a company. Fucking clearly. But anyway, that's aside. Social media, I would say, is a convenience, and it is not essential to me doing my job, so I don't really give a fuck. But that's a pretty fucking stupid rule. That's a pretty stupid fucking policy. Now, obviously, you don't want people posting about work at work. Fine, fair. That's reasonable. You get to dictate what I wear, how I take care of myself, making sure I'm clean cut in some capacity. Cool. Fine. That's fine. If you want to tell me I can't post about work when I'm at work, that's fucking fine. But that's a little fucking much. Because let's face it, we are entering an era of society where there's fewer and fewer places to hide. And attention is everything. Now, I have seen agencies that are figuring this out in a good way and are actually going out of their way to build a positive social media presence and to publicly praise their people. Now, some of them, you look at it and you're like, hey, you know what? That's cool. I'm really glad they're doing it. And then others, you're like, yeah, you're trying to hide some shit. You're trying to be like, hey, look over here. Well, you're doing some dumb shit over here. But anyway, so on the social spectrum, there's this weird fixation on liability, treating everybody like they're a threat to your well-being, rather than giving them incentive and encouragement and positive reinforcement to be a positive representation for you. Because guess what? EMS people, we love to fucking talk. And we will talk about anything. But what we will talk the most about is when you fuck us over. So if you want to change that narrative, you need to start doing things that actually give some people some incentive to speak positively about you. And no, just a paycheck and insurance, that's bare minimum. That's exchange. Like, I work for you, you do that shit. That has nothing to do with how you retain people. It has nothing at all to do with it. So maybe focus more, instead of having your, Facebook Gestapo, you actually create some avenue for people to positively represent your agency, to put a human face on it, because I think we're dehumanized a lot. We're dehumanized in a lot of larger, well, not even just larger agencies, but there's a lot of agencies that dehumanize their people and just treat them as numbers. And the public responds to that. The public will also do that. If you treat your people like people, treat them well, they will represent you well. You will earn loyalty. Loyalty is not an expectation. It is earned. It is a privilege. Loyalty is a privilege for leadership of an organization. It is their privilege to earn your loyalty, not the other way around. You are not privileged for receiving the bare fucking minimum from an employer. That is an expectation. A paycheck and insurance, that's an expectation. Loyalty is earned. And I will die on that hill. Now, shifting the focus of liability to patient care. We're all familiar with the term evidence-based medicine. And ideally, that's what we should be practicing. But there's a lot of EMS agencies that believe in liability-based medicine. And I have experienced both ends of this spectrum in my career. I have seen a service that gave people the full scope of practice that they were able to. Literally, any drug, just about every fucking drug that was on the state formulary, and maybe a few more too, was part of your standing orders. And you were expected to be proficient with it and to use it appropriately. That was an agency that was also owned by a larger organization. That's all I'll say about it. A larger organization that was very pro EMS. The other end of the spectrum is an agency that has maybe a quarter of those drugs. Now, they have all the flashy equipment, nice new uniforms and new gear and new ambulances and all of that. That's awesome. That's cool. Protocols suck. Why? Because they're concerned about liability. And the philosophy of training in a place like that is we treat and train to the lowest common denominator. So whoever the stupidest person is, basically, that's the standard. But what they fail to realize is that you normally have a regression to the mean. So whatever you set as the standard, there's going to be some point like right below that's where everybody's going to end up. So if you drop the standard to the lowest fucking common denominator, guess what? It gets worse from there. It really does. So, but we would much rather do this. We would much rather minimize our patient care standards and ultimately jeopardize the well-being of potentially thousands of patients by not rendering appropriate care in a timely manner. We'd rather do that than run the risk of looking bad. Well, how about we train people to meet the standards? And if they don't meet the standards, they either remediate or they're gone. Revolutionary concept here, especially around here where we're a right to work state. EMS is not unionized. So, hey, if you're fucking up, guess what? Bye. Deuces. Problem solved. And here's the thing: people look at us like, "Well, we'd fire so many people." Okay, cool. But what you would do is you would be attracting quality people, because what did we say? EMS people love to fucking talk, and if enough good people are like, "Oh, I heard so and so say they got fired from this place because they couldn't meet the clinical standards," that's kind of fucking cool. I want to go work at that place. Let's go check that out. And so you have to think long game with this stuff, because if you keep the liability frame of mind, the scarcity mindset, this walking around afraid of what might happen, you're never going to get better. And you're going to continue to, not only are you going to attract the bottom of the barrel, but you are going to have people who get so comfortable with that subpar standard of care that they literally can't go anywhere else. They can't. And that's another difference between the one agency I worked that was very, was on a, upper level, very pro EMS, versus a place that wasn't. A place that was pro EMS would give you all of the tools, pay for pretty much any training you fucking wanted, and expected virtually nothing in return. And that's the right mindset to have. You should train your people so that they can leave. I'm paraphrasing this quote. I don't remember who it came from, so I'm sorry. If somebody recognizes it, please tell me in the comments. But you train people so well that they can leave and go anywhere, but you treat them so well that they don't want to leave. That is the paradigm that we need in EMS, but we have it completely fucking flipped. We go, typically, lowest common denominator, or really, ultimately, most places fall in the middle somewhere. They don't want to do full tilt everything, but they also don't want to look bad. They don't want to be at the back of the pack, so they'll pick a spot in the middle and just kind of hang out there, kind of dodge and weave a little bit, and avoid some liabilities, but do enough so they look cool. That's where a lot of places follow. But as a rule, we don't really do a good job of rewarding the good people and punishing the bad ones. So what do we expect to happen when you are fixated on liability and on what could go wrong? It's going to go fucking wrong. But we've referenced law of attraction multiple times before throughout the podcast over the last almost 2 years now. What the law of attraction is what you fixate on is what you will attract. So if you're so fixated on we want to minimize liability as much as fucking possible in every way possible, and that's all that we care about. We don't care about anything else. Well, guess what? Everything else is going to go south, and you're going to have liability issues. So instead, focusing on, hey, what are ways that we can invest in the people that we have, better them, and attract quality people? Because just like in relationships, if you want a significant other, you need to be what you expect. You need to be the caliber of person that you expect. Because like attracts like. The same way that in the same way that you have that kind of attraction amongst individuals as an entity, if you want to attract quality people, you need to be enforcing high standards of quality, objective quality, and not focusing so much on making people cookbook medics that follow a recipe, but giving people freedom of thought and empowering them to actually use their brains. I joke about my paramedic brain that I, can just turn on and off. But it really is true. Like, We should be looking to invest in our people. Their paramedic brains are very strong and well developed and powerful, because that's how you get good patient outcomes. You get good patient outcomes from people who are smart, they're motivated. And the motivation isn't something that you just give them. And it's not something that you can police either. You have to attract motivation. You have to attract motivated individuals. You can't make anyone that way. You have to attract them. They have to come on their own. And if they're going to come on their own, they need some reassurance that they're actually going to be treated well and be useful and be able to do everything that they are capable of doing. Because if they feel unfulfilled, if they feel like, well, shit, there's a lot that I could do, but my protocols won't let me, guess what? Bye-bye. They're going to fucking go. So this fixation on liability and on trying to cover up every single little mistake just makes the problem worse. It just exacerbates it. So, how do we fix this? Well, like I said, treat people better, earn their loyalty, raise your clinical standards significantly, and treat people well. Don't hound them on every single little Facebook post. This is the world we live in now. Like it or not, agree with it or not, we are in the digital world. So adjust, adapt to this new world that we're in, and find a way to make it work. That's all I got for you guys. Be safe. Talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.